Okay, so I got the table saw. It is a Sawstop 36-inch contractor saw, which means it has the fancier fence with the lock like that. So that will be better. Eventually I want to put a router table here, but for now, when I called Rockler, which is awesome by the way, everybody should go to Rockler and get stuff if you need woodworking supplies. I talked to them and said that, hey, I want to get a Sawstop Contractor saw. They recommended the 36-inch versus the 30 just because this fence is better. And if I ever wanted to upgrade, say, to the 52, I'd be able to sell this fence, whereas most people would not want the 30-inch. That was the recommendation. They also recommended that due to the mobile base being, well, it has the 4 wheels that you can buy from Sawstop. It has 2 that are single position and 2 that are all position. So you have to wobble it back and forth to get it where you want it to go. They recommended not to get that. They recommended get the upgraded mobile base that you use for the industrial saw and the fancy end, high end saw stops, because that one actually has gas or hydraulic cylinders, or maybe gas hydraulic cylinders. In any case, you pump the lever, it lifts the whole thing up. It'll roll all 4 directions anywhere you want to go, back and forth, and then you push it again and it'll set it back down. And in either case, both the lower end mobile base and the higher end mobile base, it just lifts the saw side, and the other side does not have anything on it, because most of the weight is on the saw side of the center of gravity and such. So if you just lift that side, this side will come up and move around. I did not want to spend $400 on a mobile base. So since with my carving base or carving stand, which is, you can't see it but it's over there, I set up a 4-wheel, moves all directions, flip up down. So normally the wheels are, it's completely solid. Flip it, wheels come down, move in any direction. I figured I can make something like that far cheaper than $400. So that's what I did. So hopefully this video will work. This is a good camera, but it zooms way in. So on the Sawstop, let's see if I can get around the back here. Somewhere. Yes, you should be able to see that. In any case, right here, and you can see on that side, there are attachment points. So you can sort of see it comes out and then it's flat, and then the leg continues down. So there are those attachment points on all 4 sides. So what I did, originally I wanted to use 2x6s, however the slant was too much and 2x6s did not fit, so I had to use 2x4s, but that worked. Just a bunch of scraps, but hey, it works. Reuse, right? So I used, I think those are 5/16. I think those are 5/16 bolts. Yes, 5/16 bolts with washers on the inside coming through the frame, and then washer and nut on the outside. That made this side solid, that side solid, and the front solid. And then what I did, and you can sort of see on that side, I used 2 3.5-inch door hinges with 1/4-inch lag screws to hold that into the 2x6 coming this way, going across, and into the 2x4 going that way, on both sides. And then I used a 2x4 coming out to the center from here to here, and I'll show from the other side in a second. And then I just used 5 3-inch deck screws on each 2x4 to hold it to the 2x6s. And then I have a piece of leftover maple bowling alley, a single strip coming across underneath with 3/8 inch, 3.5 inch bolts down through that just to hold it so it doesn't move back and forth. And then we'll start from this other side, assuming it's bright enough. Hopefully it is. Now you can see the other hinges on the other side. And then what I did for the front, I have a piece of 2x4 sticking down. And yeah, you can see I drilled a hole through there and put, when I did the carving station stand, I actually had multiples of these pipes. This is, I think, a 2-foot, 1/2 inch water pipe, galvanized, and the elbow. And I miscalculated when I was cutting the pipes before, and I cut one pipe for the short end, and then I cut the long end, and I cut another pipe for the short end. Realistically, I could have used the same pipe, but in any case, I cut a second one for the previous project, so that means I had a short end and a long end. So the long end sticks through, and this time I remembered to put the blue Loctite in this, tighten it down super tight before doing any of this work. For the carving station, I got everything else done and forgot, and then I had to tighten it up on the unit, which was much worse. So then what I have, and I don't know if we'll be able to see that, but down in here you can kind of see that there's a bolt and a second bolt. So there's 2 bolts. Those are again 5/16 bolts with washers going through a piece of oak trim on this side, down through the pipe, out through another piece of oak trim on the bottom. You can just barely see down there. And then a washer and a nut on the far side. There's 2 of those that go the whole way through. That holds it all together. Again, I used one of the a pair of strings off those mattress bags because they're heavy duty nylon ropes, so why not? And they're just the right size for going down there, tightening up through and a little extra. So then I have 2 hose clamps and some piece of old purse, leather purse or fake leather purse, going over the hose clamps to keep the string from catching on it and wearing. And then this top piece is another piece of bowling alley floor, single row of that hard maple. And then I have 2 holes down through, a little bit of space, and 2 more holes. So the rope comes up. The 2 ropes come up through 2 holes over and then back down through the other set of holes and extend about this far down through that board. And then I screwed in tightly a piece of flattened metal angle, like from a cabinet. I was tearing that apart, had an extra one. And then screwed that down tight so that holds to keep the rope from coming up over and down. On the far end, where it goes in between, and you can't really see it here, but where it goes in between the oak, it wraps around the tube, up around in between, and then there's the knot that from the end, so that's all knotted. And then by clamping that tight, it keeps it from unwrapping and has plenty of friction to pull down. Let's see, one other piece, if I can get in here. So then on this far side, you can see the pieces of oak sticking out, and then the pipe extending out through. And then I just have a pipe clamp, or I'm not sure if that's not really a pipe clamp. It's one of those fittings that you use to hold pipes to walls and such. I flattened that out and screwed that down through. That is to hold up the other end of the pipe, because when I initially tried this without that being supported, it twisted and was pulling the heck out of that 2x4, because that single point of connection does not give it a lot of twist support. But having that board going across underneath the 2x6s with loose 3/8 inch bolts down through just to hold it for back and forth, that ends up having enough support to allow it to tighten up and work. Now, so I actually have this on a. Oh, I don't know if this is gonna work. This is on. Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna work. I wanted to try and get something that showed this, but well, yeah, it's on a stand, but I don't have something to hold it, and it needs to go down that far. Oh wait, I know what to do. I know what to do. These legs extend. Ha! Use the stuff. Alright. Let's see if this works. I think that'll work. That's too much. Hopefully that won't fall. In any case, I'm really hoping that doesn't fall. What this will do, so you just push it this way, pull this out, put the pin back in the other side, release it, put that there. I think that all went on video, but again, that this top part is not attached. It can move back and forth, and if you put this clear to the floor, it actually will slide out. But yeah, it's. Let's see. I'm trying to get the camera back. Okay, so as I was saying, this top piece is not securely attached. It's just sort of floating on top. This is different than the carving stand where I had the long lever. So this actually puts a ton of pressure with those ropes. I initially had pine strips and number 8 bolts down through the pine strips, and when I cranked it and lifted it up, it shredded, literally just cracked and shredded the pine. And then it's like, okay. Oh, and it also bent one of the number 8 bolts. They're not very thick, they're just, little, but still, it just bent it over. I got it straightened out, got that off, got a separate set of bolts, tried with the little oak strips that you can kind of see in there, I think. Yeah. And then put those bolts back in, tried it again, I heard pop, pop, and it snapped both of the number 8 bolts out. So, took everything back off down there again, and that's why it's nice that this does not actually securely attach. It's one less thing to unscrew. And then I drilled it out and put 1/4-inch bolts in. That works great. So that is not going to bend, I hope. And then I just put it all back together and it looks to work. But yeah, proof. Oh, I forgot to show the important bit. Alright, hold on. One of the important bits. Well, I can show this part. I am pushing and it wobbles a little bit, but not very much. And that's partly because these legs are not adjusted correctly, but it really doesn't. I mean, I'm pulling pretty hard and it doesn't move, but that's because some of these are adjusted lower than the other side. Eventually, I literally just got this finished about 10 minutes before I started recording, so before I use it, I have to adjust all the legs and feet to make sure, because those aren't even touching, to make sure wherever I sit it before I use the saw that it's down securely. But let's try this again with that little more. Well, I guess I'll tilt it some. It's hard to tell. Okay. Oh, that's dangerous. Okay. That kind of sees it. There we go. So again, just pull this out slightly, rotate that across. Well, you can do it this way. So where is the camera? This is not the best video, but that's the way it goes. So turn that, and you can see that moving it to there brings that straight. Well, hopefully you can see that brings that straight and lifts up the saw. And take that out. Stick it in there like that. And now pulling the same way, it moves. And it actually moves pretty easily. So this camera does not zoom out very well. But yeah, you can see, other than running into things because it moves, it actually rolls fairly easily. And then again, just pull that out. Pull the pin, hold that, pull the pin, put the pin back in, let it down, and then it's down again. So what that means is I am going to be able to move this saw back where it's supposed to go, which is in behind there. There's a table that it's supposed to go to, and the plywood has to move so that the saw can go back into its more proper place. But yeah, all total, let's see, price wise, I have the steel wheels from Home Depot, which I think are like 10 bucks, 12 bucks. They're definitely less than 20 bucks each. They're probably closer to 10 to 14 bucks each. They're the steel industrial wheels. Pipe and elbow, so one 2-foot pipe is probably $2 or $3. The elbow is probably $2 or $3. I have a little piece of this bar here is 5/16 bar, just a little chunk, and the various screws and things. I don't know how much the bolts were, but I had bought them in a pack of 100, so it's not that much. And I bought the hinges in a pack of 12, and there were 12 hinges, 12 3.5-inch hinges for like 24 bucks. So 1, 2, 3, 4 hinges out of there. So it's, considering the low end mobile base for this is like 150 bucks, and the high end base was like 400 or 350, maybe. Yeah, it's like $350, $400 for the high end base to get this level of movement. I spent way less than both. So plus it's the fact that I used all scraps that I had laying around for the wood, so I didn't really have to buy any wood. So yeah, it's a very solid base. It looks like it's going to work just fine. Eventually, once I get a router table on this side, I may end up extending this out and adding another set of wheels, just to make it a little more sturdy. But again, that's not yet, and I can always attach and add things that extend out from here. But yeah, that's what I got. That's where it got. Hopefully the video is at least coherent. I think it should be. But yeah, I didn't have any intermediate videos for doing this base because all the basic steps and pieces, well, other than pretty much all the steps and pieces, are in the carving stand, and I did a lot of in-between videos on that. So yeah, it works. I turned it on. It's actually decently quiet when I tested it. I didn't actually cut anything on it yet, but I did turn it on just to make sure the thing powered up. I didn't want to try and use it till I had it on the stand, because where it is sitting in the garage is in the bay where the car is supposed to go, so this is not where it's supposed to end up anyway. But yeah, it was a good project. It took me a few hours yesterday to get most of the pieces done, and then I would say 5 hours today getting all the final little bits and the pipe and the cross pieces and the down and the tweaks and all the little stuff. So yeah, one weekend to make this whole stand and setup, so that's not too bad. And again, I would say it was less than 50-60 bucks total materials, since I had all the wood already, which is pretty good for an equivalent to 400 bucks. Now granted, this doesn't have a fancy jacking mechanism, but it does carefully lift it all up at once, and then lets it all down at once. And as long as you don't slam the lever either way, it's a very gentle up and down. So I think it'll work great. So that's it for this one.